Jim, let me ask a couple things here to wrap up. One is, what is the weirdest thing? This will be outside the scope of your book, so sorry about that. Let's have a little bit of outside the scope. But what's the weirdest thing that someone asked you or wanted you to do during this time?
Well, when you say weird, it's kind of hard to explain that. I can tell you that I know that many times, whether I was fighting the fees that were on credit cards, and I actually, as a freshman, opposed the elimination of fees by the federal government of credit card companies because they were trying to reduce the fees. I do remember some of the big retailers coming to me and saying, you know what, we supported you. And of course, the credit card fees being reduced were positive to them. But we supported you, and, we're not going to support you if you continue this to try and eliminate fees on credit cards. And I go, well, first off, would you want the federal government telling you what you could charge people in your business? And I remember the representative saying no. And I go, well, but you want the federal government telling the credit card companies what they can charge. So it was always interesting because I believed in doing what was right, even to the detriment. So a lot of times when people say to me, well, the lobbyists control how people vote, it was never the case for me. I was always a big believer in doing what's right, doing what's best interest for the people, doing what's best interest for the next generation. So there's a perfect example of someone who did not, follow the money and vote based on what the lobbyists wanted and what my supporters, financial supporters, wanted, because I knew it wasn't right. And that's probably the one thing that I remember. And it does always flow back to, do lobbyists control how people vote? Well, I guess they could. But for me, it was always doing what's right and doing what's right for business. I still ended up with the support of those companies because they knew in the end I was always going to do what's right for business and the American people and the country as a whole. So I still ended up with their support, even though I was against them in that specific vote.
We're talking with Jim Renacci. His book is The GOP's Lost Decade. He journeys from being in business to Washington and back. And Jim, I wanted to ask kind of a little bit of not really a personal question, but along that lines of, how do you manage and how did you manage a family during that time? How did you travel and move around and make sure you had time with your family and all the incredible amount of duties and responsibilities?
Well, I will tell you it is a strain on your family because you are away. Thank goodness my kids at the time were in high school age, although I still have to chuckle that, many times they learned a lot. Many times they learned things that weren't even true because of the television commercials or whatever. So the biggest strain is really the political side of it. Having commercials written about you that says you're a tax cheat when you're a CPA and never cheated on your taxes, or you're a lobbyist, or you've done business with Saddam Hussein, and I mean just things that you've never done, and yet to have these things put on TV. The political side was really tough for the family. I still remember my wife one time saying to me, I can't believe what you're putting us through. And it was that strain. It was the political strain. But thank goodness I had a good wife who I've been married to now for 37 years. And, she understood that what I was doing was in best for my country. And she was with me and my kids were with me. And they also understood that my goal was always not about me, but it was about them. It was about the next generation. It was about making sure that the next generation was, that I was thinking about the future. And so that's what got us through it, even though I will tell you in many cases, it was a strain on the family being away. It's one of the things when I left Congress that I appreciate most is to be able to be with your family and be home more often to spend time with them. But I do give many members who travel to Washington credit for being willing to be away from their families. I do remember the one time I was walking down the hall of Congress and saying, the one thing, if I had small children, I would never recommend anyone being here with small children because you lose the opportunity to spend time you're never going to get back with your small children. I remember that individual looking over at me saying, I have 2 small children. I'm doing it for them. And I do understand that, but it's very hard. But when you realize you're never going to get that time back, baseball games, soccer games, all those things that your small children do that if you're in Washington, you don't get a chance to participate with them.
Jim Renacci, the book is called The GOP's Lost Decade. Get yourself a copy.